What's going on, guys? So in today's video, we'll be looking at the sad reality of the WNBA. Now this comes on the heels of recent comments made by many WNBA players about the unfair treatment they believe they're subjected to in comparison to their male counterparts who play in the NBA. So in tackling this issue, as well as a few others, the first thing we'll look at is what's been making the biggest splash as of late, which is the wage gap. The biggest headline in these past few months as it relates to the WNBA has been its players complaining on both social media and in interviews about their compensation or lack thereof in comparison to the NBA players. Now, while the wage gap has been debunked time and time again as nothing more than a myth by both economists Thomas Sowell and Warren Farrell in his great book, Why Men Earn More, what many people fail to realize when it comes to professional sports and the entertainment industry is that compensation primarily comes from the subjective values of consumers. And the main reason why WNBA players aren't paid like the men is because there is no demand for their league, as first evidenced by the poor television viewership. As we take a look at this graphic, which highlights the viewership of the WNBA and the NBA during the past 7 years, we can clearly see that the NBA laps its female counterpart in regular season viewership. These viewership numbers are instrumental for the league and its players as they dictate the monetary value of television contracts, which then eventually filters down to its players. And because the NBA has great viewership numbers, it was able to negotiate and sign a 9-year, $24 billion contract with ESPN and Turner Sports in 2014. Meanwhile, the WNBA's numbers led to a 6-year, $72 million deal with ESPN in 2013. And contrary to popular belief, WNBA players do get a larger share of their annual television revenue, as was reported by ABC News business contributor Darren Ravel, who is also a sports business reporter for ESPN. Now, while television viewership does account for a good portion of the overall league revenue, the second form of viewership that must be taken into account when looking at the wage gap is in-game viewership, also known as attendance. And as we look at this graphic displaying the attendance average of both leagues since the WNBA's inception in 1997, we see that while the NBA has been dominant in attendance over the WNBA during that time, it has also been slowly growing its attendance over the years, with the 2017-2018 season setting the all-time record for attendance average at 17,987. Meanwhile, the WNBA has not only been on a slow decline since 1998, but also recorded its lowest attendance record of all time this past season at 6,770. Now, while many other factors contribute to total league revenue, such as sponsorship deals, as well as official team and player merchandise, the reality is that NBA players are paid more because of their ability to generate more money for the league as a whole. And in 2018, the NBA generated $7.4 billion in revenue, while the WNBA is very generously estimated to have made $52 million last season, a number which is only speculative as the WNBA has never released its annual revenue numbers. However, many WNBA players such as Kelsey Plum have continuously stated that they aren't specifically asking for the same type of money as NBA players, but the same percentage of revenue shared, which is 50%, as opposed to what they currently get, which is 20%. Now, the only problem with this statement is that it assumes operating income, also known as profit, something the WNBA has never had since its genesis in 1997. In fact, in its first season, the WNBA, which was owned by 29 NBA teams, had spent $15 million on marketing alone before any profit. Then in 2003, Adrian Wojnarowski reported that David Stern had authorized a $12 million subsidy from the NBA to its female counterpart. And in 2006, the Boston Globe reported that WNBA teams were actually receiving $12 million as a yearly allowance from the NBA, which is in line with USA Today reporting that WNBA teams were losing $1.5 to $2 million a year in 2007. But more recently, the New York Times reported in 2016 that half of the WNBA teams were losing money. And since then, no WNBA teams have reported profitability in 2017 or 2018. This lack of profit is the reason why since 1997, 6 WNBA teams have folded while 5 other teams have relocated. This also explains why the WNBA is already on its 4th commissioner in 21 years, and why James Dolan, who owns the WNBA's New York Liberty, was on record as stating that he came close to handing the franchise back to the league in 2015. Fasting forward 2 years later to November of 2017, James Dolan and the Madison Square Garden Company released a statement announcing their intention to sell the New York Liberty. So in going back to the original point made by WNBA players about getting a larger share of league revenue, the question now becomes, if giving 20% of league revenue to the WNBA players is still not enough to make the league profitable, how would giving 50% be any better? In fact, because the WNBA is not nor has ever been a profitable league, the truth is that its players are overpaid and should be thankful for the 20% of the league revenue that they are receiving. Now, despite what's been shown this far, the already built-in excuse that many WNBA players have, such as Elena Del Don, to their league not being profitable is because of the lack of promotion and coverage in relation to the NBA. However, the WNBA throughout the years has received more than enough coverage and marketing to build itself into a profitable business. In its inception, the WNBA was on NBC from 1997 to 2002 as part of their NBA on NBC coverage. The WNBA also had a deal with Lifetime in its early years, and per Brian Dunlin, who served as the vice president of Lifetime Sports as well as executive producer of the WNBA on Lifetime, the reason why Lifetime ended its partnership with the WNBA a year early was because the WNBA's ratings weren't as good as the household ratings, which was the main focus of newly appointed Lifetime CEO Carol Black, who ironically enough is a woman. Then in 2002, the WNBA signed a 2-year deal with the Oxygen Network, which is a media brand primarily aimed at serving women. However, Oxygen was not rated during the first year's 11-game WNBA package, and after averaging a 0.2 rating for its 13-game package the following season, the Oxygen Network did not renew its contract with the WNBA. And because the NBA keeps tying the WNBA's rights to its own contract, it has led to the WNBA partnering up with ABC, ESPN, and ESPN2. Furthermore, when talking about promotion, it must be noted that WNBA players have been featured on national commercials as far back as the 1990s to the present day. They have also been featured in blockbuster films, and the NBA has had its players support the WNBA by way of commercial and on-court attendance. More importantly, in this day and age, there is no excuse for the WNBA and its players not developing their own following by way of social media if they truly think they aren't getting the support they deserve. But even in that arena, the WNBA still pales in comparison to the NBA. Whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. In fact, many of the WNBA's more prominent stars, such as Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner, haven't been active on Twitter in the past 12 months. So if marketing and promotion aren't the issue, then it becomes quite apparent that the WNBA's main problem is that its product is simply inferior. Now, the lost component in what's been the WNBA's fight for supposed monetary equality has been its product. And unfortunately, the founders of the league miscalculated how different the athletic ability is between men and women, since basic biology teaches that there is a considerable difference in the innate physical capabilities of the sexes. Because after puberty, young men on average have 8 to 10 times as much testosterone as young women do, making them much stronger since testosterone increases levels of growth hormones, and growth hormones is what builds muscles. This is why all branches of the military, along with the police and fire department, make their male applicants go through harder physical fitness tests than their female applicants. And much of that displays itself in the sports world. Like when Major League Soccer's FC Dallas Under-15 boys squad beat the women's national soccer team 5-2 in a scrimmage. Or when Croston Broch, who was the 203rd ranked male tennis player in 1998, beat both Venus and Serena Williams after they had proclaimed they could beat any male tennis player ranked outside of the world's top 200. And after beating them, he was quoted as saying that the Williams sisters wouldn't stand a chance against any male tennis player ranked 500 and above. This difference in physical ability is also the reason why Ronda Rousey, as well as many other female MMA fighters, have been on record as stating that male-to-female transgender MMA fighter Fallon Fox has an unfair advantage fighting against women. And this leads us right back to basketball, where it is plain to the naked eye that a man's body is built in such a way that makes his feats within the sport of basketball much more entertaining to watch than the women's game. Whether it's the speed, the long-range shooting, the acrobatic leaping abilities by way of dunks, alley-oops, and layups, and even the strength and physical dominance. But because women are not nor have ever been built like that, then the level of excitement is significantly lowered since nothing unexpected is going to happen. And when nothing unexpected or exciting happens, then the product loses its appeal and entertainment value. And people in general are not going to pay money for a much slower, fundamentally sound game as much as they are for a game where they know they'll see something exciting. Which is why even female celebrities like Beyonce, Rihanna are regularly seen at the men's games as opposed to any of the WNBA games. Moreover, even when players such as Lisa Leslie, Brittany Griner, and Candace Parker, who are tall enough to dunk, actually do it, they're not doing it with any authority, flair, style, or originality. In fact, they're barely even dunking at all. And when those WNBA players are compared to NBA players such as Spud Webb and Nate Robinson, who are wildly undersized, as well as a player like Stephen Curry, who is not known for his leaping and dunking, then the difference in athletic ability between the sexes becomes that much more glaring. This is why none of the WNBA players will ever try out for the NBA. Because even they recognize that the physical superiority of the men's game is something that they are simply not equipped to compete against. Because if the WNBA players were truly all about equality, then they would have lobbied for their game ball to be changed to the same size as the men's game balls, for their games to be 4 12-minute quarters, which amounts to 48 minutes of play, instead of 4 10-minute quarters, which amounts to 40 minutes of play as is presently constituted, for their three-point line, which is shorter than the NBA's three-point line, to be pushed back, and for their regular season to be changed to the standard 82 games that the men play instead of the current 34. But as we already know, they won't tweet about any of these changes for the same reason that they'll endlessly tweet and nag about the wage gap without mentioning the viewership gap, the attendance gap, the revenue gap, the profit gap, the marketing gap by way of social media, and more importantly, the biological gap. Because all of them say they want equality, but don't actually want the responsibility of being a man. And the truth of the matter is that in the entertainment and sports industry, you never get what you think you deserve, but only what you have the leverage to negotiate. And 20 years after the fact, the WNBA still has nothing to leverage, as it is net negative as a business and is still subsidized by the NBA through direct financial support, where they benefit from revenue generated by the NBA's national television and sponsorship deals. But what all of the WNBA players have successfully accomplished by nagging about the wage gap via social media and in interviews over the past year or so is that they've allowed the public to be distracted from what Candace Wiggins strongly spoke about in her interview shortly after retiring, which is the bullying and sexually degenerate misconduct that's rampant in the league. An atmosphere where, according to Candace Wiggins, 98% of the women are lesbians, and where new players are expected to conform to that lifestyle. And much of that can be seen in the fact that most of the WNBA's more prominent players have come out as lesbians. Furthermore, when players like Simone Augustus and Diana Taurasi shamelessly make light of their inappropriate sexual conduct on a court where children may have been watching, it only further invalidates the WNBA as a league and brings credence to what Candace Wiggins was saying. And when that is combined with the fact that the WNBA Seattle Storm partnered up with Planned Parenthood as of last season, it makes the WNBA seem like much more of a social justice and agenda-driven political movement than an actual basketball league.
Jordan, your shell swoops forward. Houston comments.
How you doing?
You got some pretty good moves. You're fast anyway.
Thanks, I guess.
You know, your jump shot could be better. You're releasing the ball too soon. It's fixable with work.
Girl, where is your mama?
Mama can't help you a jump shot. Does he have a jumper?
He's only 11 months old.
I had a jump shot at his age. I had a good jumper.
This weekend in Minneapolis and ready to put on a show here at Target Center. As as Chelsea Gray controls the tip.
I think they're going the wrong way.
Yeah, she wasn't sure which way they were supposed to go. Nobody really was sure, and Liz Cambage says, all right.
I think they're going the wrong way.
Yeah, she wasn't sure which way they were supposed to go. Nobody really was sure, and Liz Cambage says, all right.
You're Lisa Leslie. Center, LA Sparks.
Yeah.
New York is gonna shut you down. Unless.
New York's gonna
I
what?
said unless. Here, try these tomorrow night.
What's this?
It's what's gonna get you over the hump against New York.
What?
Use those in the second half. Catch him off guard.
I'll show these to coach.
Whatever, suit yourself. Just little friendly advice.
Men's tennis and women's tennis are completely almost two separate sports. So I'm like, if I were to play Andy Murray, I would lose 6-0, 6-0 in 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, because no, it's true. It's true. It's a completely, it's a completely different sport. The men are a lot faster, and they serve harder, they hit harder. It's just a different game, and I love to play women's tennis, and I only want to play girls because I don't want to be embarrassed. I would not do the tour. I wouldn't do Billie Jean any justice. So Andy, stop it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you kill me.
Cynthia Cooper, guard, Houston Comets.
Yeah, hi, what's
Why'd
your
you pull
name?
up for a 3 on the break last night?
Well, I was open.
Tina was open on the block.
Yeah,
You
but
know she's money down there. Why'd you take it? I know I wouldn't have.
because I was
My
open.
mama says because is not an answer.
Your mama's right.
Should've
but
hit Tina down low.
I promise I will next time.
Assuming there is a next time. The way I see it, you owe Tina an apology.
I'm glad she's that confident in her abilities. But she's also a little delusional.
Like the confidence, BG, but I don't know if that's gonna happen.
It's not a walk in the park over here.
She says you'd be no better than the third best post player on the men's team.
I'm just gonna use that to fuel this. I mean, I'm better, but and I know that kind of gets at him, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay, little man.
But I would like to see that. I would pay to see that.
I pay for our ticket. Front row though. I gotta be front row.
My money's on BG.
I got cuz on that one.
If there's no referee, I'm gonna go to the ATM and I'm gonna sell my house and I'm gonna put all my money on DeMarcus Cousins.
Oh, we'll give her another shot. Hang on, we'll give her another shot. I don't even think I can touch the bottom of the net. All right, give us a good one. Here it comes, Brittany Griner again. Yeah, lace up the shoes, get them all ready. It's like back in the day with the D Brown Reebok pumps. You got to pump them up a little bit. Pump them up a little bit, right? Yeah. It's the pressure we put you on the spot.